anybody have questions, concerns, things that have popped up that you're like, oh crap, what do I do now?
His harness, it's oversized, and he like just bites the heck out of me when we put it on, and then I was trying to adjust, I couldn't even do it. He just...
Okay, so before you put it on again, adjust it down some, and then hold the harness and treat him. Hold the harness and treat him. Hold the harness and treat him. And so that the harness is no longer something to fight over, right? Just keep doing that. You're kind of working backwards because he's already been wearing it. And now you're trying to introduce it at the same time. But keep doing that, and then just slip it over his head. Treat him, not secure it around his belly area. And treat him, and then go to snap it, treat him.
He's not aggressive about really anything, but that, he gets super bitey and like...
They get weird sometimes when you're putting stuff on them. It's like, sometimes you're like, that's the thing that you're going to fight me on, right? Like the harness.
Right. He's really crazy about it.
Yeah. So just so you're going to go backwards and reintroduce it as if it's brand new all over again.
Palmer still gets in certain times of day where he's like very biting our ankles and clothes.
Uh-huh.
And it's harder to just grab him and pick him up now because he's
bigger.
30 pounds. Yeah. And I try the yelp and stuff, and that does help, but then he kind of goes right back to it. So do you have any
So do the yelping, have toys, and get him to play like some tug of war with you really quickly, and kind of distract him from biting you. And then if it still continues, then put him in a timeout for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, just to kind of redirect him and let him back out again, or you leave the room. Go to another room for a minute or two, and just continues that cycle. Because he's going to be teething until he's about 6 months, right? That's when all the adult teeth come in.
and it is getting better.
And then there are some great chew toys that you can freeze. Not just the frozen Kongs with the treats, but just like baby teethers. They make them for puppies. You put them in the freezer. That kind of helps and offers some relief as well. I think Nylabone makes them. Or look in that section of the pet store and get those little icy freeze things and give it to them. Because it's just like babies. I mean, that teething is really uncomfortable. And then why do they want to bite on us? Because we're the ones who are supposed to help them, right? So it's not like I'm chewing on you because I want to bite you, but it's like, help me, I'm so uncomfortable. This is hurting, and it's you, right? What other concerns are you guys having?
I'm going to try to cut his nails. Do you have a recommendation on what kind of nail thing to use?
So I only like the scissor style.
Not the buffer one thing?
I mean, I only have big dogs, so those never work for me unless you buy the actual Dremel. But those things, I mean, unless you're comfortable using them and you've been using them, you have to be careful because if you go too short, right?
I'm afraid of that.
Yeah, so the easiest to do at home would be just those little scissors, the little scissor-looking ones. And all you're going to do is, especially if your dog, because I'm sure he has black nails, is just cut the sharp tip where it starts to curve until you get more and more comfortable with where his quicks are. And then if you really want to have it Dremel, then I would go to a groomer, PetSmart, Petco, just for the nail trim and let them file them down. I would just do that little sharp tip.
Okay.
Just until you get more comfortable and you get to know his nail beds better, right? Because quicking happens, and cornstarch, if you don't have the quick stop, works.
Otherwise it'll bleed all day long.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Because if he wiggles and you try to snip and
Peanut butter on a spoon.
you can do that too if that helps keep him still. Distraction.
Have you seen those?
Huh? So the guillotine one, but the guillotine style cutter, you don't want to use because you can, even though it has the backstop, if the nails aren't that long, you can still go in too far, and then you cut, and then it bleeds forever. And it's painful for them. And like the first time you quick your dog, you're gonna have a harder time the next time, right? So you definitely want to, if you're not comfortable, your vet or Petco, PetSmart, you can just go in for a nail trim. I think it's like usually between $5 and $10, right? And then definitely less is more when cutting the nails yourself, especially the first couple of times. Make sure that you're staying on top of touch, right? And use that command all the time, especially if you are going to venture off to off-leash stuff, so that they are checking in with you on a consistent basis on the trail if you're off-leash. It's a lot easier to get them to come back to you if they're comfortable with touch, especially if you have dogs approaching and you just need to pull off to the side. If you happen to encounter wildlife, right? I mean, this is the mountains of Colorado, and you want to stay calm, right? Like if you're hiking and there's a moose off to the side and you don't know if it's a mama with babies or whatever, you don't want to start calling your dog. You don't want to get loud, right? Because you don't want to spook the moose either. And so you just want to calmly tell your dog, touch, come back to you, you snap on that leash, and then you can turn around, continue walking, step off to the side, whatever situation you're in you need to get out of. Use that touch so that you can calmly get your dog to you without going into a panic, right? Because that's the last thing you want for you, the dog, the wildlife. And so that's the best tool when you're off leash, right? That way you're not screaming, come, right? Like, so just stay casual, touch, 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 right? So that should be in your daily routine. You should be using it all the time, even just in the backyard, touch, because that's something that you want to keep fresh, right? To get them to come back to you. And then obviously you're going to keep working on stay, right? That's just an ongoing tool till you get that one, because again, that's just something that you don't want to rush, right? You don't want to get your dog to break his stay because you're rushing too hard to try to get a long stay. And then just the basics, right? So do the puppy push-ups, the sit down sits and all that kind of stuff before they get to do anything, and kind of keeping them mentally challenged, right? With training never stops, right? Your dogs are never perfectly trained. It should be ongoing for life, so that they don't lose it either when they're older. And then just exercise, right? And then all the fun puzzle toys, and take advantage of all those companies that keep marketing all these products because they work, right? Find something you like. It doesn't have to be super expensive. You two are too cute. Oh.
We want to eventually take him in a bike trailer. Like, how do you get him so he stays in it and he's okay with it? And
so you start slow, right? And you start very gradual. So one of you walking him on leash while the other is riding the bike, but towing the trailer, and you kind of walk beside it, letting him get comfortable with it so that it's not a scary thing. And before you even get to that point, you just have the bike with the trailer attached and you let him sniff it, right? Like nothing's moving.
Should we throw some treats in?
Not right away. You're gonna go really slow with the introduction of it, right? And then you have him kind of sit in it, but it's not moving. It's not going anywhere. He just kind of get in, jump out as he wants to. Treat him if he jumps in on his own, right? And then when he's comfortable with that, then you ride it empty while he walks beside it. So he gets comfortable with that whole part of it all too. And then you take maybe 100 yards, right? Then he goes for a very short, quick ride. And it does zipper, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really jump out. So then you just kind of gradually increase the distance so that you can reward him until he's like, man, this is cool. I can go for 20 miles and I don't have to walk.
All right, good.
So yeah, but the slower you go to introducing things, the better it is.
Yeah, we'll have it set up in the garage. So we'll see it.
He doesn't want to.
So you're gonna have to get his attention. So that's where the look comes in, right? So, Toasty, look, and then you could call him to do something when you have his attention, right? So that's where you have to keep working to figure out what noise will get his focus for a nanosecond, so that you could ask him to do something, right? Because the minute he's looking at you is when you can ask for something, right? Even in the middle of all of that.
Yeah.
Hi, Toasty.
Recently, he has been. Toasty, look.
And then you can do touch. I don't have a treat, but there you go. Good boy.
Good job. Swimming.
So swimming, not all dogs will take to it, and then sometimes dogs that you don't expect to do, right? And dogs who won't play in a baby pool don't think that they won't swim, but the best course is this summer. There's a dog park in Longmont called at Union Reservoir. Go there. Go where other dogs who are swimmers are swimming.
Okay.
Because that's how your dog's going to be introduced to the water, right? If you try to do it yourself, it doesn't work. You have a dog, poof, right in with them. And at Union, you'll find like little dogs, like these two, swimming around with the big dogs, right? But you've got to go where the dogs are. And I think Cherry Creek has a dog beach as well. South Boulder has a dog park that has a little area that they can swim in as well. And then the only other thing I've read about, I've never personally seen or experienced, is when you're around too much, or if you spend too much time in the water, is them ingesting the water. And what is that? Well, the Giardia too, but there's dogs who have died from it, like dry drowning. Is that what it's called? So if you're spending way too much time at the water, that's one thing to be cautious of. Them drinking too much. Let's see. So we have graduation. Yes. So sad when like class is over. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And also, just like I said, email me if you encounter anything and you have some questions or concerns or need some tips or tricks or whatever. Email me, please, at any time.